Let me share a bit of my story. Back then, I was working as a realtor, just doing my thing, when I helped my wife's lover buy an apartment. Yeah, sounds pretty wild, right? But at the time, I had no idea who he was. This all happened before the quarantine hit, so life was, well, normal, I guess. I worked in an office, dealing with real estate, and one day, this guy, pretty quiet, down to earth, came to me looking for a studio. He seemed like a nice enough guy, nothing too out of the ordinary. I helped him out. We found a place he liked, even scored a nice little discount for him. It seemed like just another transaction, and honestly, I didn't give it much thought after that. But then this year, out of nowhere, a friend of mine casually drops this bombshell. He saw my wife, walking arm in arm with a guy, near this one residential complex. They even went in together, came out with grocery bags. At first, I thought, nah, no way. I mean, my wife's always busy with work. How could she be in two places at once? It just didn't add up. But my friend, he just kind of raised an eyebrow like, you should think about it. Then, when the quarantine hit and my wife told me her office was still open, well, kind of, they switched to closed mode, but she kept working the same hours, the same routine. Something didn't sit right with me, so one day, I decided to check things out. I called her office, which I'd never really done before, and tried to get some answers. Turns out, during the pandemic, they'd sent everyone home to work remotely. But here's the kicker. Her office went bankrupt, and everyone got laid off. This was a whole year ago, mind you, and she'd never mentioned it. So that night when she got home, I decided to bring it up. I told her what I'd found out, and how I was feeling about all of it. Things were starting to not make sense, and I had to know what was really going on. Her reaction hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me speechless, and honestly, it still haunts me. She just sat there, totally composed, and calmly confirmed everything my friend and the office assistant had told me. She'd been seeing that guy for over a whole year. I didn't even know what to say. But the strangest part, I couldn't bring myself to tear apart the family, not for the sake of our son. But when I really thought about it, I realized how insane the situation was. She hadn't worked in a year, but every day she'd leave at 8 a.m., supposedly off to her job. Then, at 9 a.m., she'd come back, as if she'd just finished her shift. And she did all this with zero sign of stress or guilt, completely unfazed. But when I asked her, what's changed around here, she didn't flinch. I was caught off guard. Honestly, I hadn't even noticed how much she had been holding things together. The house was still running. Dinner was on the table, groceries were stocked, and she spent time with me and our son in the evenings. It wasn't what I was expecting, and I could feel myself wavering, questioning everything. But then her response hit me again. Well, I'm working, just not the way you think. I got a new job at another company, and that's what I'm doing now. She went on, saying she'd managed the household finances, helping with the budget, and spending her share however she saw fit. And then it came. Her truth. I'm bored with you, and I found myself. I've always kept my role as wife and mother. I've never left the house. I've been here every night. I've split my time fairly for our son, so don't even think about blaming me. She stood up, sharp as ever, and walked out of the room. I was left sitting there, completely dumbfounded, trying to piece it all together. Confusion and anger hit me at once. How could she be so calm? What the hell was going on? No, darling, that's not going to work. I stopped her as she tried to walk out. Even for the sake of our son, I couldn't just accept this. I couldn't sit next to you, knowing you'd been with someone else. I couldn't look at you calmly, knowing the truth. And to make it worse, my friends knew now too. They were starting to look at me differently. It was unbearable. So we spent the whole evening talking things over, hashing out all the details, and in the end, it became clear. Divorce was the only way forward. We agreed that our son would stay with her, and I packed up and moved out. We decided to tell him that we had a fight and that I'd be living separately for a while. The truth would come later, depending on how things played out. From there, everything shifted. It was now my ex-wife's responsibility to take care of our son. The things I had been handling during her working hours, like driving him to his activities, helping with homework, managing his wardrobe, and attending school meetings, she now had to take on herself. When I'd pick him up for the weekend, my son would tell me how things were going. He said his mom had become anxious, overwhelmed, and was spending most of her time at home. As the months passed, the relationship with her lover began to fade. She became unnecessary to anyone. They were becoming rarer and rarer. My son even started asking to live with me, saying that he was happier there, that I knew his daily routine better, and that I was more consistent in everything. In the end, that's exactly what happened. My son moved in with me, and my ex-wife was left alone with all the problems she had accumulated, problems that either I or her lover had helped her deal with before. Oh, and then there was the cherry on top. She somehow revealed that she had taken out a massive loan to help him buy that apartment. You know, when things like this happen, you start to believe in karma. It's hard not to.